Hi, Veronica, foster mom, back with you for part 3 of the Teen Chronicles. I have to tell you that I said it in part 1, when I started, I didn't know how long the video would be or what all I would talk about, because with all of our chronicles, I only give myself bullet points. So high level, I know like basically what I'm going to talk about, but I don't have specifics. It just kind of comes out as I'm recording. Definitely not a professional at that, as you all can probably tell, have already gathered by now. But when I started the Teen Chronicles, I didn't think I had enough to talk about to fill up even one video, one 15-minute video, let alone now here we are in part 3. So if you have not had a chance to go back and watch parts 1 and 2, I do strongly encourage you to do so. I just talk about, in part 1, I talk about what it's like in general to foster teens. And then in part 2, I go into more specifics and I share a few of the teen stories. So in this video, I do want to share a couple more stories from some of the teens that have been placed in our home. Just to recap the other 2 videos, my family and I have fostered between 10 to 15 teens, so almost as many teens as we have all other ages. And overall, it's been a positive experience. Of course, there's challenges, but there's challenges with any age, right? There's challenges raising a child, period. So I'll just jump right in. I'll start with D. Dee was a teenager, I would say roughly 16 years old. She was Black female, when we were called from placement and asked to take Dee, and I can't even remember because it's been a couple years now. I can't remember if it was placement or if it was actually a caseworker, but somewhere during the process and us agreeing to take Dee, we did speak with the caseworker, and she had specifically requested us. She knew that we were a Black foster family. There aren't many in the area in which we foster. And so she did have this particular teen that she felt needed to be with us, whether it was, a couple of nights. I think she was only with us maybe one night. It was 2 at the most. But what the worker shared with us is that the teenager Dee came from a home where dad was a drug dealer in and out of her life. Mom was struggling with substance abuse and maybe even some prostitution. I don't remember the whole parental story, but Dee basically was falling into these negative, the wrong crowd, negative behaviors. And so when she came into state custody, the caseworker was trying to talk to her and say, look, you got to make better choices. You got to, you can't do this. I know you're going through a lot at home, but, as a Black person, you already have the cards stacked against you. You got people, saying, you're not going to be anything, or and you're facing discrimination and racism and all this negative stuff. She was like, you're just proving them right. You can't do that. And so she said the teen Dee's response was, well, this is the way it is. Do you not see the part of town that I'm raised in? Do you not see who my parents are? And so the caseworker sought us out because she knew of my husband, who was, even though we only relocated to this area, my husband grew up here, and he didn't grow up in the best part of town, but he had parents who loved him and who, tried to raise him right. But he still had all those negative influences when he left the home. And so he had choices to make. And his choice was, he did go to college for a while. He joined the military. And now, I mentioned it in our intro video, he's successful, making 6 figures, because of positive choices that he made in his life. So this caseworker wanted this girl to come to us. She wanted the girl to see an affluent Black family, a 2-person home, and she wanted this girl to hear my husband's story. And so this was one of those situations where, because I got to tell you, especially with teens, they don't want to hear a lecture. They don't want to hear people talking to, doing a bunch of talk, right? Like they want to see. They want to see you walk the walk. They watch what you do more than what you say. And so, but at the same time, it was important for my husband to talk to her and share his story. And so he did. He told her, he got real with her. He was like, this is what I saw growing up. My mom and dad were there, but, they weren't always there. And yes, I had, this good family life for most of my life, but I still had, some people that I knew doing that, and, the neighbors doing this. And so again, it was one of those things where he tried to stress to her that I could have easily have gone down the wrong path, but I chose not to do that. I chose to do the right thing. And he was like, you have a choice to make in your life. You can choose, the negative way, or you can choose the positive way. He said, but the bottom line is your environment, not to minimize it, because we know that it does impact a person, but you can't use your environment as an excuse, because you do have choices you can make. So when Dee left, I hope that we planted positive seeds in her life. I don't know what happened to her, because as I said, she was only with us for a day or two. But it is my hope and prayer that she took that to heart and that she started making those positive choices in her life. And above all, I hope that she was able to be placed with a permanent family. If she couldn't go back to her biological family, I hope that she was placed with a family who cared for her and who were a great example for her and were patient with her, because you could tell there was a lot of anger. Not her self-worth was not high. So yeah, that's my hope for her. We did have another teen. She was a Black female. I mentioned her in part 2, but I realized once I started that I actually had lots of examples to share about her. So I knew that I couldn't finish up the video, couldn't finish up part 2 talking about her. So I'll take some time here in part 3 to tell you about A. Now, she was probably 14 years old, I would say. And she was another one of those teens that just really fit in with our family. If we could have kept her longer, we would have. I don't remember all of her story. I think she was I think she had gotten into some legal trouble and she may had to go to a youth detention center, or maybe they were getting her into a residential program. I can't remember what the exact story was, but she, we didn't have the option to keep her longer. We kept her for the weeks that she was with us because they were waiting on whatever the process was, either court or a bed to open up in this residential facility, whatever the case was. When placement called us, they asked if we could take her for this specific period of time. So during the time, as I said, she just really fit in with our family. Like, she had this personality that really seemed to really jive with us. Like, she was sort of sarcastic, but yet, she was funny. She had these little one-liners, but she was always respectful. She, even what I would have deemed a little past the honeymoon period, she probably did start getting a little mouthy, but I think that was, to be expected. She was going through a lot. She did, during the time she was here, we talked about her family. Again, we don't bombard them with questions in the beginning. We allow the teens to get to know us and us get to know them, and then we'll slowly start asking questions, and we give them the option of opening up or not opening up to us. And so she did open up. She said that she had a grandmother who she loved, and she was hoping that when all of this, whatever was going on, was over, that she could be reunited with her grandmother. So I hope that that is what happened. She did mention that mom and dad weren't stable, didn't have a stable presence in her life. Not sure what their story is, but I did know, as I said, that grandma was that central figure in her life. And it sounded as though that grandma, again, was good person, had a healthy home, but because of the choices that A made, she ended up in state custody, I think because of some legal stuff on, that she was taking part in. Totally could have that story mixed up. But going back to her time with us, so I mentioned in one of the previous videos that the teens we have a couple of guest rooms upstairs, and so A had one of those rooms. She spent especially the first night, she spent the night in her room. She was kind of, she did shower, she did eat. She asked for some hair products because I can't remember, she wanted to braid her hair, but whatever, she wanted to do something with her hair. But then the rest of the night, she kind of stayed to herself, which was totally expected, totally fine. But by day like 2 or 3, whatever, she was out. She was blending with the family. We even ended up, so my parents had some function, or might have been a cookout or something. They have a lot of those at their house. And so we took her, and she just fell right in, just talking with everybody and just laughing. And as a matter of fact, in talking with her, my in-laws found out that they knew like some of her relatives. So that may happen when you're fostering some of the children that come into custody. You may have a connection with the child. You may either know their parents or know someone who knows their parents, something like that. So that's another reason why it's super important to maintain those, healthy relationships. But also, if the children are with you long enough, and if the parents have not lost their parental rights, you may have to have regular contact with the birth parent, as the birth parent is trying to work their plan, get themselves together so that they can be reunited with the child. So again, want to put that little side plug in, working with the birth parents, although it can be challenging from time to time. And I'll talk specifically about that in another video, because with our current placement, it's definitely something that we've been struggling with. So I'll have a video in one of the Chronicles where I'll talk about working with the birth parents. But I just say that to say, especially with the teens, because we're talking about their self-identity. When you're a teenager, when you're little, you don't know if someone knows your family, or if someone, but it's different when you're a teen. So you have to be mindful. You can't say anything negative about the parents or about the family members. I mean, hopefully you wouldn't do that anyways, because through this whole process, we learned that you have to, give people grace. We don't know their full story. But again, our job, our role, right, is first and foremost to those children. So having said all that, A was one of those where we did find that we knew some of the family members, or at least my family knew some of her family members. But it seemed to be, a positive thing. Hopefully one day we can reach out and kind of connect and just find out how she's doing, because as I said, she's one of those that really fit in with our family, just her little personality. And I would love to know how she's doing, and if she, if she's on the right path. So, aside from her, I think that's it as far as at least the teens that I want to chronicle. We do have several others, some of them whose names I don't even remember. But again, our hope is that whatever teen has come into our home, that they're able to see positive role models, not people who are perfect, because those people just don't exist, but people who are striving to do the right thing, safe home, love each other, and hopefully love on them for the whatever time period they're with us. So again, I want to conclude with this appeal to those of you who are either considering fostering or you're a current foster parent, but you only foster the littles. I strongly encourage you to consider fostering teens. We got to remember when they become an adult, like we want them to be productive members of society, right? We want to set them up for success in life. And so if you're called to foster and you're able to do that, like what a blessing to be able to foster a teenager and to connect with them, give them love, I want to mention, I thought about, we had a teen around prom time, and my daughter was trying to pick out a prom dress, and biological daughter, looking at gowns and things like that. And I thought about this young lady, because then I think I may have even asked her, hey, are you going to prom? And she looked at me like, no way. But I really thought about, and she wasn't with us during prom season. It definitely would have been a different story had she been with us during prom. But when I look at my biological daughter and all the opportunities she had, those joyous times, picking out a prom gown, getting your hair and makeup done, and then getting ready for prom and taking pictures and things like that. Even things like when she went to university and her move-in day, and we helped her move into the dorms, and just that joyous time. A lot of the teens don't have that. Even if they have those moments, they may not have that adult that's there to celebrate with them. So again, if you're considering it, I ask that you please, if you're a person of faith, pray about it. If you're not a person of faith, give it serious consideration. I hope your heart is tugged in that direction, because they do need us. The teens need an adult to connect with them, to be that person to talk to them, to listen to them, to celebrate those milestones with them. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you'll tune into the other videos. Thank you.